This is Amadia Sweet with Heart Mind Expressions, and today I'm with Rumors of War 1987 again, and we're going to talk about some experiences that we've been remembering since childhood up to now. So how have you been doing, Michael?
I've been doing great. We have communicated recently, and I think we kind of got that vibe that the energy of the last few days and the last few weeks has been off the chart. So I've been kind of just vibing with that. I've been really active, posting and creating a lot of videos, as well as researching, subjects. And it's a full time gig, 18-hour days, spent like really delving into this material. So yeah, I'm kind of taking advantage of it, taking advantage of the manic state that the universe is, throwing us all in. Yeah.
Right. It's been some weird and really intense energies. Just then the work that I do as a mentor and a light worker, light warrior, I've had a lot of people coming to me with like twin flame things, or maybe they're actually waking up with these weird paranormal events. And that's kind of what we were talking about. Maybe we would go into that a little bit with the secret space program, military abductions, other paranormal types. We don't know exactly what everything is, but we can go by with what our experiences are and explain our memories from there, our dreams or whatever else has come. And like with Crystal Cedar, I had talked about a while back, we started really young. I remember as far back as 3. How young do you remember being, like whenever you started having weird paranormal experiences?
Well, I remember my first alien abduction to be around the age of 9, and this was around 1996 that these things really started becoming like undeniable in my life. And I remember, you know, I have a good memory. I have a pretty, picture, like a photographic memory, like, pretty clean memory with these things. And so I'm pretty sure they weren't dreams, and I'm pretty sure they weren't imaginary, like friends or anything, but they were definitely, um, like smaller grays visiting, mantis like people, and these were clear memories I have of these events when I was 9. And so I want to say it's even before that though, because I feel like these are lifelong experiences. Like I said, the earliest you can remember these things. I believe that in fact we were created in utero in the womb by these secret space program elements, be they solar
I think a
warden, be
lot
they
of us were.
exactly. We
Uh,
were created generationally, and our
Now,
families
didn't
were
your
manipulated.
wasn't your family also military like mine was?
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And it was also a lifelong UFO paranormal experiencer family
Right.
with many
Native
instances,
American bloodline,
stretching
do you
back years.
notice? Right?
Well, like, well, for example, my father is a alien abductee and has shown many people like that UFOs in the sky, that CE5 protocol. He was into that back when he was younger. Um, the family, my great grandfather had a
Do
very
you want to explain really quick? Do you want to explain what CE5 is? Some people might not know on the
oh,
group,
say,
and so
yeah.
that way that they get a better idea.
Excuse me. CE5, as just to summarize it, it's just the willful and conscious calling an invitation of extraterrestrials, and it's particularly UFOs, particularly you know aerial phenomena like lights or craft or vessels. Um, it really is like a incantation ritual. It's like a summoning ritual, and it's like a meditation
Like a,
world in one.
do you think?
Huh?
Sometimes I think of it maybe like kind of like the way you would pray, but not like you're worshiping them, but more like kind of
You're
that
calling.
two-way
You're
communication telepathically.
yeah. It's definitely a type of spiritualism in that aspect, where it's recognizing the other side and calling it into this world. And it's connecting the two worlds, connecting this and the great beyond. That is C5. you know, at the very heart of it. And regardless of the specifications or the, you know, people who are like the gatekeepers of it, Dr. Stephen Greer, etc., it's a, you know, it's a widely practiced by real experiencers, real
That's
experiencees. They can,
really cool that you've got it generational in your family openly. That's
well, like
awesome.
my grandfather was a Army Ranger, and he later had a bunch of experiences with alien abduction himself, missing time episodes, and this was during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and so this was you know, uh, I don't know what was the Steven Spielberg type UFO documentary drama
All
he did.
right, what was that one?
And it
I
was
remember
over
da
multiple
da da da
seasons.
da.
Yeah,
Wasn't it
exactly. You
the
know,
mashed potatoes? Oh,
yeah,
what
this was
was
like
that
that
movie?
kind of era stuff, and
Right,
that was
right.
back in the '80s, right? And so, I mean, like you see
I
that
remember that.
was
That
how America
movie
really dealt with
freaked
it.
me out. That
Yep.
and Starman. I remember that was
Yep.
another big one that I was so triggered on as a kid. Those scared the crap
Starman.
out of me.
Starman is really relevant because that's the exact nature of like the shapeshifter energy being, like this kind of a
Right.
fallen angel energy being, like came down and assumed the form of Jeff Bridges, and
Hmm.
really wasn't like an evil entity, but you
Right.
know the government treated him like he was public enemy number one, and it was like this really, you know, it because that happens. There were interlopers, there were travelers and visitors, and like from higher
Wonder
dimensions.
if do you think maybe they were doing like an impersonation of Valiant Thor? Maybe like it was soft disclosure of that doing Starman.
Well, it is definitely related to like the Ashtar High Command and the way that uh, the day the Earth stood still. You know
Well,
that's a
what I've actually
representation of.
heard, as far as Ashtar High Command, I've actually heard that that's a CIA psyops, and
Yes, I've heard
so
that
that I have a
too.
lot of mixed feelings about that.
But I've actually had an experience with the Ashtar. There's a frog right there. I experience
Yep.
with the Ashtar High Command, and I know that they exist. They take many names, but they have a framework of existence that isn't CIA. The CIA is linked to them in a lot of ways because they kind of like do their dirty work and they kind of mop up after them. But
So
these
you don't think
creatures,
it could be like a voice of God type technology that's kind of creating another matrix that would cause confusion and disclosure at all?
just because someone uses a real thing to fool someone does not mean that real thing is fake. If someone
Hmm.
dresses up like a crocodile, does not mean crocodiles aren't real. No.
Right.
This
I guess
Blue Beam,
I'll have to do some
the
more
government,
research in it.
my labs, Blue Beam, all the government,
What about
false
drill
disclosure.
plane? That was a big one.
Yeah, but I mean, all the false disclosure efforts and missions and operations that they're going to conduct, they're going to use real, um, fictional. They're going to use holograms and disguises, but base them on the real extraterrestrials that do exist,
Right.
so that they can sway our opinion. So that when the real extraterrestrials are actually integrated into our, you know, worldview, or into our, you know, common matrix of, you know, human, you know, recognition, and you know, once it becomes mainstream, they'll have control over how we perceive them. They can easily pull our strings without us ever having to really encounter an extraterrestrial. They will
But
tell
haven't they
us
already been doing that? Because with the
exactly.
Matrix,
They
basically the
have
vision that we
been
have,
doing that. They have
perception.
that's
Yeah.
business as usual. It
Hmm.
starts with the first and earliest prototypes of hologram technology, which is Hollywood movies, you know, and then they feed it to you, they drill it into your head how they want you to think, because we have been actually subconsciously made to glorify and to be loyal to the Ashtar High Command, because we are their like soldier cast in the new,
Right.
because the Ashtar High Command is a name for their organization. They are a confederation, like the Federation in Star Trek or the Empire in Star Wars. They're like a bunch of species and nations which are connected to a common um, uh, empire, and the empire is ruled by Ashtar. Ashtar is a Pleiadian, and so everyone thinks that the Pleiadians are only no. They have Greys, they have Arcturians, they have Syrians, they have Orion Draco, they have
We have to
humans.
be careful with a lot of the Pleiadians too, just because with my own experience as well as some others, they can be a lot like, and I've had bad experiences with the Anshar. That they kind of have an agenda that's kind of
Oh,
sexually dark,
definitely. They are not.
and I don't like it.
No, this world is one of harsh realism, and the philosophy of nature is one of tooth and claw, like red of tooth and claw. The Ashtar High Command are fighting for their survival. They are locked in a gigantic cosmic war with the Orion Draco reptilians. They are doing everything to serve their own interests to dominate and conquer space, like the solar system. They protect the sun. The sun is a gigantic stargate, and they
Right.
have already made connections because they're millions of years older than us. If you want to look at our standard year, they're millions of years older than us as a civilization, and they've already harnessed and mastered the conversion of solar energy into pure, like they convert it into fuel, so they can, while near the sun, and the closer proximity they are to the sun, the more powerful they are. And their technology is so advanced, it appears like magic to us.
It's
It
a lot
appears
like the
so.
elemental beings too, and I feel really connected to.
But the whole idea of Solar Warden is that that's the contribution of the Earth breakaway civilization to the Ashtar High Command, and that it serves to help the standard military forces of the Ashtar High Command repel the Orion Draco.
It makes sense that they've taken a lot of people who are elemental. I don't know, like people call it your star family or whatever family. I don't know what to call it. Like a lot of people know that have listened to my show. I was raised hardcore um, LDS, Mormon, whatever you want to call it. And for 41 years, that's where my mind was. So this is still so much for me to absorb.
Oh
And
yeah.
realizing, coming into the realization of the SSP and Solar Warden, I won't even go into the class because I've been asked right now not to, but it's amazing to me how many things line up,
Well,
and
that's
just
what we were
how we
going to
use that
speak
solar
about.
energy.
Well, that's what we were going to speak about, is how experience in the Solar Warden and what we did in the Solar Warden, like what our purposes were in this whole operation and this whole, puzzle, what piece
That's
we played in
probably
it.
why
Um,
I'm
well,
so connected to the plasma GANs, is
not
that
everyone was
plasma
educated.
stuff.
Yeah, not everyone was educated in these things. Like, not everyone in the military is educated about foreign policy or diplomacy or politics. You know what I'm saying? Like the actual
Hmm.
shape of the world theater, the universal theater. I think that's what I had a lot of experience in, was diplomacy, was intelligence, was in understanding the politics, the species, their technology level, specifics about history and their culture, looking at it like a very gestalt, holistic perspective, a very serious but very academic pursuit. This is how war is really fought, is because of intelligence and intelligent people who sit in think
Right.
tanks and they work out
And our
endless possibilities.
spirituality, being able to raise our vibrations.
Oh, they're entirely a cult. No, even domestic things like the Rand Corporation and stuff, they are entirely communicating with extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings on a daily basis. This is
Wow.
like exactly what they want. Oh no, this is how, like, exactly. This is, they play out alternate timelines, and they view quantum war. Like, these are the people who have the actual material about these things, the data behind it. They This is such a labyrinthian thing. Like I said, people can participate in the SSP in many thousands of ways. and never truly see the big picture, never truly even understand what's
Right.
really outside of their own experience. And even if they are unfortunate enough to share a sliver of their own soul with their thousand of cloned variations, and so they have to live, with connection to all these different individuals, and so they can see, so they can feel and kind of simulate a bigger picture through their own experience. It's still an
Thank God for the
enormous
Akashic
task.
records. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Holy
still an
cow.
enormous task. Like, this is why I think the SSP and the breakaway civilization keeps itself secret, is because it really is far too much to process for the average individual. The sheer enormity and complexity of values and ethics and incidences and precedences, like, people don't even know their own history, let alone the one, that's acceptable to learn. Like, think about it. When's the last time you studied U.S. naval history in its entirety? No, never. And that's the country you were born. And that's just one country. Imagine having to learn
Right.
the world's entirety of accurate information,
Right.
and then
That's a lot of shit to put in your head.
a lot of shit to put in your head. Exactly. Like Mitch Hedberg said, you have a lot of shit in your head.
Right. Well, and I noticed the more that I've been activating, especially since meeting my twin flame, um, it's like it's almost like you have this computer that needed to have the hard drive. What do you call that when you do the
Rebooted?
change all the? What's that?
Rebooted?
Not really rebooted, but I'm like trying to remember. I built my desktop, my studio desktop, but it's like trying to remember what you call it, defragmented. And
Oh, yeah.
like after you
Yep.
defrag, everything is just lined up, it works better. And so I
Mhm.
was thinking about that. I'm like, it's like a defrag. And I've had a big theme of that. And I know that, like you're still looking for your twin flame. There's a lot of people out there that are coming to that realization that, they're there somewhere, but what can we do to keep opening up these channels, defragmenting to allow that to
Well,
happen?
yeah, like you said, it's a lot of like you said, you are capable of holding an infinite amount of information, and all they have to do is block off certain gates to it, mental gates, and then you will basically be so busy filling up the other amount of infinite space you have to fill up that you may never even desire. Like, as an experiencer, who is kept so, like, pressured not to experience, as someone who is like,
Right.
it's just told to bottle it up, to keep it at bay, that they're delusional, that they're crazy. I just did a
Right.
video about
Right.
sanity today, and that's why it's on my mind, is that I'm aware that even to watch videos about this subject is very, like, risque, to be like, oh my god, like, wow, like, I might be a experiencer or an alien abductee or in this program or have these memories, or like, what does that mean about everything if this is real? And it's like, this is why I think the community that we exist in is so very, very small, because it is such a like Herculean task to
Right.
come to
But it's
terms with this stuff.
so important. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
important that we get balanced. And even if
Mhm.
there's these weird paranormal things or memories or bleed throughs, whatever people want to call them, as the lady that I worked with today was so traumatized. She had used some acid, and it opened up so many gates in her mind and in her heart. She wasn't ready. She hadn't done the dark night. So it's so important, people, if you feel like you get triggered, figure out what's triggering me. And if you can't, ask your guides. I do a journal and I write down things like, what's this trigger? This is how I feel. This person maybe said or did something, or something was happening that I just felt this anxiety or whatever. And then I'll really start to discover what that is. And then I go inside like I'm talking to that child or that person that experienced it, relive it, but do it in a way with love and letting it go. And then basically disconnecting or reframing those negative feelings so that the emotion is gone. It's just a memory. And so
I
it's so
think a
important to
lot of
do that
yeah,
because I could just feel.
Yeah, you know,
for
you're
pain.
right. A lot of it is feeling and allowing yourself to feel. I had your very traditional emotional breakdown, uh, rock bottom, life ruining experience during all of this. Don't worry, like, this is
Yeah,
something that you'll find yourself crying in your shower. You'll find yourself like definitely questioning everything, and it's like a painful experience beyond.
it is
Um,
painful.
well, I'm saying beyond even really help, you have to just kind
Yeah.
of go through it all. And
Yep.
a big part of it is because that's what they put. That's the whole. Okay, when people say, "Oh, it's a hypnotic block," it's a hypnotic block because to go through it is traumatic. It's
It
not
really is.
imperviable. It's not invincible. But to deal with it will cause so much pain that it's just such an unattractive uh, prospect. And these,
Right.
and I think everyone deals with it. I just think everyone's very good at covering it up. I think everyone is good at keeping silent, of keeping secrets. And I think like it's just one of those. It's like an iceberg. Society exists on the surface, but as it goes down the layers, it becomes, um, a more monumentally different thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it becomes where it's like, oh, these issues may exist for certain people, and then these issues exist for a large amount of people, then these issues exist for everyone. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, then it becomes like a world thing, because with the secret space program, I think people have a mistaken view of it, that there's anyone outside of it. Everyone is included in this if the premise is correct. If this is true, and I 100% believe it is, then that amounts that it is the overarching framework for reality, not the other way around. It doesn't exist as a small part of reality. It is
It
reality. You
is
exist.
reality. That,
Yeah,
that really makes sense. And it would make sense. Why wouldn't we be a community of interdimensional travel when we already have it? Why not take advantage of your slaves any way you can and get as much out of them as you can?
well, I mean, it's okay.
That
We
makes
think,
sense.
well, if you really start thinking about it, you're like, oh man, we are just a small island, and we may be very important, but we are still Hawaii compared to everyone else. There are just so much more world out there. Like, I know how important Hawaii is to everyone, but it is still only a very small island in a very big world. Um, the true cosmology of the world, I think, is more accurately depicted by the Vedic scriptures, by the
Right.
Vedic Hindu cosmology, because it shows the many, many thousands of worlds, the many millions of different races and peoples, and how ancient, like, this existence really is. It is billions and billions and billions of years old. This
Right.
is nothing that proves progress. We just really are uh, we are waking up to the system, like, that has already
Yeah,
existed
we are.
eras and eons. Exactly. And that's why I think the Ashtar High Command, when we were speaking about them, have a lot to do with it, because I remember my secret space program experience having to heavily incorporate the Ashtar High Command, like, presence. They were there on our ships. We were loaned out as staff officers to them to be educated in their psionic teachings and in their philosophies, and I had to learn their art and their culture. So I got to see a very candid portrait of them and a lot of Ashtar porn. And this is entirely serious because they wanted to have officers be intelligent on their very detailed, nuanced fashion of life, because this is going to be incorporated into the daily existence of humanity. One of those
Right.
things is the pervasive culture of the bedroom and the household and of the society. And this is how the Ashtar High Command is truly going to rule the world and truly colonize the world. It's not going to be uh, Battlestar, like, like Galactica style ships flying around major cities like Independence Day, and we're going to hold a gun to our head. It's already happening. They're just changing our very fabric of society, our ethics, our sociality from the ground up. This whole coronavirus thing, this whole social quarantine thing, this is all part of it. This is all the big plan of it. And it's like they live. How did the aliens take over society in that Roddy Piper movie? They live. They took over society by brainwashing us, by hypnotizing us, by changing the very fabric of our daily life, and
I'll have to watch that one. I
redesigning.
haven't seen that.
Oh, it's a classic, a very iconic,
Oh, okay.
kind of very hard disclosure. There are soft disclosures and there's hard disclosures, and it's very much like, yes, that was a
We have
effort.
a video store here, so I'm like, I should just go rent a video.
I think it's on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. I think it's completely free if you find it
Oh,
online.
really?
You can
Okay.
easily find it online.
That's a better idea,
But
huh? Might as well.
as related to the secret space program, my personal experiences now that I'm kind of opening up is what I was obviously enlisted as a child to be taught and educated in electronics, aviation, electronics, and basically electrical engineering of various capacities for various, computer terminals, modules, and like diagnostic machinery that we would use for these various avionic components. And it takes basically 10 years to learn your ins and outs of it. And so in the 20-year and back, a lot of it was aviation maintenance experience. But like when it comes to starfighters, when it comes to the fleets that we were using for logistic transport, off-world colonization, things like that. But a lot of it was ship-based. I didn't see a lot of time on what I would consider the lunar surface, or I would consider Mars, or it was more space station to space station, and it was fleet ship to fleet ship, like basically different aircraft carriers, and then on world bases, like in conventional geographic space, like on the Earth, but in exotic areas like Nicaragua. There's a base in the jungles of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Puerto Rico, and they kind of
Wow.
triangulate
Doesn't
communications
surprise me.
thing. And it was also, yeah, like weird stuff like that. Like definitely a lot of jungle bases, definitely a lot of islands, and even
Fine.
underwater, deep sea underwater facilities.
Especially underwater. Right.
Yeah, and so it wasn't a lot of sightseeing. It was a lot of being in these strange, very high-tech facilities with a very diverse staff of extraterrestrial and human and personnel. And a lot of it was just spent either performing very mundane technical tasks, like engineering tasks, and repair and maintenance, and your general military duties, like being part of the honor guard at one point for your flag ceremonies
Right.
and funerals and things like that. But also,
Reminds me of ROTC in high school.
exactly, a lot of weird shit like that that doesn't like really apply to the sense of the adventure, but more so the sense of what it really means to be a part of a military organization, to be a part of a military fraternity, to be a part of this um, different breakaway civilization. And also the sheer amount of fucking study and book learning we had to do, like learning different vessels, learning different craft, learning different methodologies, learning different tactic strategies, the firefighting, damage control procedures, everything you basically run the gambit from. And this is exactly how navies are really run. Like, the more the longer you're in, the more opportunity you have to train and to qualify for other, things that, it impresses is basically playing the game. And this is exactly what that my secret space program experience was. The main peculiarity was the complete isolation, the complete mind fuckery, the hypnotic suggestion, the drug stimulation, the chemical stimulation they had people on. They were psychologically, um, you know, manipulating us and driving us. We
The
were
electroshock with the MK Ultra.
well, some experiences are really hard to explain. Like we had to basically encounter a one individual of a species that was encountered by an ICC fleet, and just being in its presence instilled so much fear and dread in an individual, even though it really was kind of unexplainable. It just had this power to do that. and we had to be exposed to it just so
Not
that
like
we
that
knew
feeling.
what it felt like. And it was like kind
Mm,
of, when you look back on it, just the most surreal and cosmic horror type element of the breakaway society, where they were like, yeah, we just have to we are the element that has to deal with this weird Men in Black shit. Like, we have to do all this
uh,
fucking
and
stuff
it's like
that no one
those,
will ever know about, and it doesn't make, and it's for like really,
exactly,
yeah, we're
exactly.
sacrificing everything simply just by being here, like, simply by just.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it, I have these memories because this isn't one lifetime, this is many variations of the different alternative lifestyles. uh, Not only the virtual reality experience of having this cross training and stuff, but a lot of it is being very exhausted as an older person, older than I am, and kind of coming to an existential crisis each and every time of being like, wow, we are just absolutely unjust in the fact that this is being kept secret. Absolutely unjust in the fact that this is
It's
above top
horrible.
secret, and it will take an act of God to ever disclose any of this information, and that everyone who makes a
But
sacrifice
I
will
think
go
that we already are having that act of God. If you really think about
yeah.
it, like many times
Oh
I've talked about in my show with Masaru Emoto, we're using those love energies that are bringing it, that Christ energy. Like even I've said many times, in the name of Jesus Christ, I
yes.
command that all of this be made known now,
Oh yes.
because
That's
that name
exactly
has
what's going
power
on.
into it, whether you want to believe he's your, or it's just an energy that has that much power because of the love. They hate that love and
Yeah.
light. That scares the
Amen.
shit out of them.
And I think that's a big part of it too, because when I came out, I started really getting into Christianity and really starting to realize how, okay, this is all in the face of it. This is all in the midst of it. And Christ is coming back. That is a
You're breaking
obvious.
up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
The internet
That Christ
froze
is
you.
coming back.
No, it's okay.
Obviously the second coming is nigh. We are in the end of the cycle, and this is going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, and so there's obviously a lot of cosmic happening occurring. This is definitely a great precipice moment, like a very historic moment. um Everyone that you see on earth
Yes.
is mobilizing to fulfill the prophecy of Revelations. This is everything that you're witnessing now is completely written about in the book of Revelations, including the
They knew
secret space
they
program.
had that
Including,
technology.
yeah.
So, yep,
A big
yep.
part of it
All of that's been totally.
a big part of it is just that we were educated in this so inaccurately. We were educated in Christianity and in Old Testament worldview
Mm,
so inaccurately. That's a huge injustice, because the secret space program stripped those elements, using their agent, the church, using their agent, the Catholic Church, to strip away any mention of direct contact between advanced beings and humans, any kind of real like elements of prophecy. They want everything to be a matter of faith when it really is a literal, historical fact. And it's the same thing with the secret
right.
space program. They want it to be a controversial matter of opinion, and it's not a matter of opinion. It is a matter of fact. Their worldview is a matter of opinion. Their worldview is a matter of delusion. Um,
Yep.
no, I've heard
The
so many
Matrix.
arguments that try to deny the existence of Christ historically. And three Abrahamic religions with 3 billion people do not contest that issue,
Right.
for it not to be for it to be a moot point, for it to be a non element in the whole discussion on spirituality. This is not
Mm,
something that delusional people who are uneducated speculate about. This is scholarly.
right.
This is something that is, the absolute most important thing in a lot of people's lives, is the deduction and understanding of this one incident, one figure named Jesus Christ, and his sacrifice and his his purchase of us through his blood and the salvation of mankind, from God giving his first beloved son. And he did come in the flesh. God did come in the flesh in the form of Jesus Christ. And that's, how you test all spirits, the unclean versus the clean. The clean will proclaim that Jesus Christ came in the flesh, and the unclean will refuse that. And I think that's a very easy test to see who's the shill, who's the disinfo agent, who's the deep state undercover cop, the narc in any movement, is to ask them, did Jesus Christ come in the flesh, to save us in our sins for the sacrifice? And,
And I have a different view of that now since I actually died and met him. I don't believe in the sacrifice thing anymore. I think that was a fear tactic given to us to make us have to go out and look for that worthiness, when really we need to go within. We need to do the inner work. And that's what he talks about. The sin is when you miss the mark. And that's the way I understand it. And that basically, in order to redeem or be redeemed, we have to go within. We have to find the I am that I am, which is that God within.
I believe in gnosis
and
too.
do that inner, and find that Christ
Definitely.
consciousness. That's the way I believe it now, more of a Taoist or Taoist look of it,
Mhm.
rather than needing to have a savior. I have to save myself and go within and find the Christos within. That's the way I see it and feel it now.
Exactly. Well, that's the way it was taught. That message
Okay.
though was changed and altered by those agents that I spoke about, specifically in the Catholic Church and in the Jesuit Church. It's because they gave us false information to make that message harder to understand. They didn't lie to us and say that message doesn't exist, but they veiled it in so much parable and so much nonsense about the events of his life and his actions that they didn't really focus on his message and really
Right. That
only
was
give
removed.
skeleton of what he said. Yeah, his gnosis message comes across very clear that the kingdom of heaven is inside of us. The kingdom of God is inside of us. We can be perfect like Christ in our lifetimes and achieve that gnosis, achieve that inner liberation, and really free ourselves from mental slavery. Because to free ourselves from mental slavery is to free ourselves from spiritual slavery. It's the two swords. You have to start thinking in it of the mind of the other, the great beyond of heavenly matters. And the worldview of Jesus Christ, I think, is completely misconstrued because the asceticism that he focused on, the denial of material gain and the sake of sacrifice for the help of others, that I believe is completely unfollowed by all the churches of the earth. Every single earthly Christian church misses that mark. They cannot comprehend the simple phrase, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man is for to go to the kingdom of heaven. They cannot comprehend that. That falls upon deaf ears. It really
It's
does.
really sad.
Yep.
That's why I think I resonate so highly with, the Law of One. There's some other ones that are really similar, just because really serving others, you find so much healing and you learn compassion, you learn love, because we can have a horrible, horrible life. But when we start looking at what wisdom have we learned and what have we been blessed with through that trial, that we really find gratitude in those trials and our
Well, I
strength.
think the whole idea of charity and compassion and affection has been replaced with narcissism, and it's beyond saying it's selfish. It is something beyond selfish. It's like a self-idolization. Like when we say we traded our souls for the sake to make us our own gods, that's exactly what it's like, is that we we lost something that lasts forever for the sake of something that's just in the moment. Like there's a lot of human behavior and nature that's been lost, and I think it's being lost every day. Like, um, it's very much like the lathe of heaven, and this is what I was saying about the Ashtar changing our hearts and minds. We needed to rediscover that. We need to claim that, resurrect that behavior. And it's many, many little subtle things that people used to cherish and seek out and desire. and that are being forgotten. A good way of thinking about it is watch old movies, watch black and white movies. Humphrey Bogart era, even before that, Charlie Chaplin silent era movies, and even try
Those
to find
some
some
cool old movies.
that's what I'm saying. Watch their interactions, watch what they value, watch how they behave. People say that's like a forced false modesty. That was really how people interacted. That was really this sense of class and the sense of intellectual respect that they had for each other. And people
Right.
like to always paint the past in a very dark way, but it really was, people relying on their own charisma and their own intelligence and their own heart, their own ethics a lot more in everyday situations. Every single one of those movies is like a person challenging what they stand for and like finding their inner hero. Like it's just that was life. That was the humanity that we all shared. Now it's all just
Now there's video games.
now it's just being either sadistic or a psychopath or like a hedonist or being an unpunished criminal. Like there's a lot of weird I don't even know how to say it. Like a lot of negative, low karma, low vibrational stuff pumped out in all these blockbuster movies, all these mass mainstream media things. And it's the spirit of Antichrist. It's the spirit of the deception. It's the spirit of the Orion Draco attempt at trying
All
to
that
weaken us, the
fear
Asteroid.
and anger and hate. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just dark side stuff, man. It's exactly like what they want. Like Yoda said it best when he said the fear, leads to hate, hate leads to anger, anger leads to suffering, and that's the dark side. And that's exactly what they want to, and that's what's happening here. They're getting us afraid of each other, then that's gonna lead us to getting to hate each other. And the hate leads to anger, and then you start seeing suffering, and that's exactly what you just watch the CNN, watch the news.
And
That's
if
what
people would actually think fear is just false evidence appearing real. And if we
exactly.
cancel out all that bullshit and just go within, I really like Ted Meyer talks about how he says to take the thoughts that are in your head, command your spirit, and put them in your heart. And just repeat that, take the thoughts that are in my head, put them in my
Yeah.
heart, take those thoughts, put them in my heart, and then count backwards 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to anchor it. And, it really works. You just get this kind of blank and then a calm. And if something doesn't make sense, I mean, shit, your heart's going to let you know if that's fake shit or if it's real because you're
I
going to
think
know, oh, do I need to take action or not?
yeah. No, I agree. I think a lot of people have to open up their chakras, especially their heart
Mm-hmm.
chakra, especially their throat
Mm-hmm.
chakra. People have to
Grounded.
open up all their chakras and really like focus on what the vibrational spin, the rotational direction of it, if it's spinning clockwise or counterclockwise, if it's blocked, if it's restricted, if it's over enlarged and siphoning too much energy. I think this
Are the colors
imbalance.
warped or flipped? Yeah, there's so many things. And what if you have attachments? Sometimes it's good to find other friends that are light workers, energy workers as well. Say, hey, can you remote view this? Do you see that if there's something off, am I being deceived? So it's always
I
good to
needed
find
help.
those groups of people.
I needed help. I really did. I started this journey in earnest earlier this year, and I met a light worker who, God bless her. She basically helped explain a lot of the things with the zodiac, and I'm still very unclear
Right.
the importance of the zodiac when it comes to this. But apparently, celestial energies and houses and events and
It
these
all plays into it.
exactly. The sidereal zodiac helped explain a lot in my personal experience that I call life, and it's helped explain a lot in my view of others and my view of the whole universe. And this is something that has to be worked on too. Perspective, like you said,
Well, and
opening
the
up
secret
chakras.
space program also uses the Chinese zodiac too. We got to remember the
Mhm.
Chinese animal energy with that sidereal because it changes depending on what your house
Eh,
is. Like you're talking about everything. That's why it's so important to know because you can build stronger businesses, stronger relationships when you do meet your twin, you'll know. Or is it a what kind of soulmate is it? How can you help each other? And we could do so much more work on this planet just by knowing ourselves through those guidebooks that we have, the stars.
I think it's crazy because I spent a lot of time. I spent my entire college education working on sociology and the classics, literature, and I read a lot of psychology on my own time. And mixing that with sociology, mixing that with this idea of studying human nature and the developments of the mind, I realize it's a very incomplete picture. So people focusing on therapy and on psychology and on the academic view of the mind and the soul are not going to really be satisfied. They're not going to achieve that gnosis. It's one of those things where people are saying that the secret space program is just about the information. It's just about these people who've experienced it. It's about everything related to this Eastern medicine that's been covered up and that they use freely, the zodiac that they use to draft and recruit people, everything, the chakra energy, the vril energy that they use, orgone. They have so much experience and data, and these things are proven realities, like Rife energy. One of the ways that the solar warden especially is able to perform and exist so close to the solar source, the sun, and absorb the radiation is because they can cure cancer and cancer growths through Rife microwaves, Rife directed microwaves. This was invented in America on Earth in the 50s, I believe, and the man was persecuted and the invention was suppressed and its information is considered illegal. Like if you're a doctor and practicing it, they'll take away your medical license, and blackball you in the industry.
Can you hold on a second?
Yeah.
Michael, hold on a second. My guy, somebody stopped by my house, so here we go. Now we're starting.
Like, well, what? I guess we can just flow into what we just started. Like, see that spontaneous, like, we're real people. Real people exist
Right.
and kind of like offshoot places, and they're salt of the earth people, like Christ spoke about. This
Right.
is who is going to inherit the earth, and this is kind of what Christ was talking about: is that the salt of the earth, people who are everyday people, people who are real people, are going to be the ones most aware of this, and all the people who are academics, all the degrees, all the gray silver ponytails, the liberal, like elites and academia, and all the business leaders, the billionaires, trillionaires, they're the ones in the dark. They're the ones who actually don't even get what's going on. People like us who are actually on the margins of societies, who are on the forefront of society, like the front lines, we're the ones who are going to inherit the future, because when it becomes the second coming of Christ, when the revealing happens, when all that's in the dark gets brought to the light, when it becomes undeniable, just like how the coronavirus shook people to the very core with the quarantine, like their businesses closed down, they're unemployed, suicide rates are high, crime is through the roof, these protests, the world is breaking apart from a simple virus. How much more so will it break apart from the revelation that we are being controlled by overlords from Venus, and the guy's name is
Well,
Ashtar?
Gaia's not going to wait for ascension anymore. She's forcing everybody into their dark night of the soul.
Exactly. It's going to happen
Had to
because
happen.
we're sitting on a volcano of the reality of our universe.
Literally.
It's like sitting on a volcano, and we're just these self-involved villagers. And even though like we might feel the rumblings, it's like Pompeii. There's no way we're even gonna like stop. Exactly. They were caught just completely by surprise. And that's exactly what we're gonna be. And our society is gonna be preserved exactly as it is now, like a cocoon. And it's gonna be like this ash cocoon, and we're gonna be able to look back and see exactly how we were right before everything we knew was destroyed and replaced with absolute devastating chaos. And exactly, like the people who know and are brave enough to fight society, to rebel from their mental slavery and to flee, to actually pay respect to Mother Nature, Mother Gaia, the people who were respectful enough to say, I get it, like let me praise you and glorify you by getting the fuck out of your way. Like like this is what people don't get, is to fear and to respect Mother Nature, because that will preserve you. That will shine her blessings on you, and that is her love. And that's why it makes people are susceptible to natural disasters. They're susceptible to this environmental, devastation, because they simply refuse to respect Mother Nature. They simply
Mm.
refuse to pay her the appropriate respect, and it's because they lost the respect and love of their mother. It's just like how society now, the
Well, and
average kid does
self-respect as
not,
well. People
and
forgot how to
also
love themselves.
people forgot. I heard a prophecy from a Mexican witch one time, and she said that people forgot to love themselves, so people don't love others, and that Mother Nature will wipe them away like the Great Flood again. And that was before I became a Christian and learned about like the Noahide laws, and learned about like just the prophecy, as in the days of Noah, will be the days of my second coming, and how people in Noah's time had completely lost faith in God. And that basically translates, in my opinion, to Mother Nature, because
Right.
nature and God are not separate, in my opinion. They are one and the same. What people read in the Bible as God or the Lord is really nature. Replace that with nature and the universe, and that's exactly my worldview.
And
Replace
that
every
could
time.
be the source of the energy that's causing that magnetism flip, that polar flip that's happening, because we've already had our poles change.
Exactly.
But when's the
That
physical flip gonna happen? That magnet's going like this right now because it's like and when you have the magnet flip, it goes that fast. So that's very destructive.
Yep. We know this is going to happen, and we're going to try to explain it away with science, but really it's an ultimate cleansing. Now, we're hoping that it's going to be less severe. We're hoping it's going to be like a Tower of Babel type event, where mankind society is destroyed, but humanity survives. We have survived several eras before, epochs, like five, I think, is the current one. And these are mass extinctions of the human race. And we'll
Well, and
be
I
brought
think
down
because
to,
the star families, I think they're gonna beam us out somehow. Like that's why we gotta have our vibration high enough to receive, just like the scriptures say, there's gonna be one person standing in the field next to the other, one struck and the other one's taken up.
exactly.
I think
That's
that's what that
exactly.
is you have to vibrate with love in service to others
Well, there
so
are
that when you
chosen.
are, we just go.
Well, there are chosen, and that this world is a type of testing ground. And you're right, just like that one prophecy where it says two in a field and one will be taken. One, you don't understand. That's simulation theory. That's This world is a simulation. This world's a matrix. You think you were just a farmer in a village. You were being
Right?
watched from your very birth and judged by higher powers, so that when the day came when the day came for judgment, you would be carried, lifted by these celestial powers. They'd notice you. They'd understand your plight. And like, this is what the whole interpretation of the Holy Host is you're right. Like, when the day comes for this magnetic flip, that will be the day of disclosure, because the higher powers will come, separate those that they view as are select and worth saving, and those are the people going to be surviving by and living by orthodox knowledge, by ancient knowledge. And this is why people who really get invested understand that the Anunnaki, the Elohim, are returning. That's a return cycle. They didn't just exist and now are gone forever. This is going to happen. This is a doomsday prophecy that everyone understands and knows. Like, from the 2012 type thing to Nostradamus to everything. Like, this is something that people are predicting. And so everyone's going to get in their arcs and in their space shuttles. Like, Elon Musk is going to try to mass produce these fucking rockets, and everyone's going to try to shuttle off. But the reality is, it's it's in this higher
Higher
power
vibration.
hand.
We're going
Yeah,
5D, a lot of us, because there's a lot of us that are already 4D. I
That's
mean,
why
that's why we feel so sick when we're low vibration, because we're not even 3D, and that 3D is so destructive that we
I
have to be in that 4D heart chakra to
I
vibrate
think it'll
high
be
enough.
a Shiva thing. I think it'll be exactly how the Hindus speak about Shiva when it she does her destructive dance and sets the world and universe on fire. So I don't think that ascending off this plane or off this world physically will provide any safety. It'll be a cosmic and universal restart, uh, purging everything on a physical atomic level. So it will have to be a spiritual, higher dimensional, vibrational type ascension. It will be the lifting. The rapture isn't physically lifting a person's physical body, into heaven. It's lifting their soul. So the body will be left behind, but the soul will always be this protected thing for those that are select, those that have achieved gnosis, those that have achieved salvation, and they're going to achieve salvation, like I said, through inner work, through the reflection of the self, through the improvement of the self, through the rebirth of the self. The first birth is from your mother, your physical mother, but the second birth is through your own gate. It's through your own,
Kundalini
because yeah,
awakening.
your own desire, your own motivation, your own effort. What I'm saying, your own labor, and that's why they call labor labor. It's there's a ultimate reveal that labor, all labor, is the production of something. It's the pushing of something, the genesis of something, and that's what they're going to say is who has labored, who has really worked for this salvation. Because when the time comes, I think it's going to come down to fear. The test will be who is afraid and who is not.
Hmm.
And I think ultimately the people who have accepted this information and have done the research and have embraced it and done the light work and opened up their own mind and chakras and reached that enlightenment will embrace this with open eyes and open arms, and it will not disturb them in the slightest. And I think everyone
There's
else,
nothing to fear. It's
exactly,
beautiful. I've been on the other side when I died, so how could it be anything but that? I mean, how does it get any better? I think it's going to be so wonderful that
I,
I'm excited. I think it's
I think
amazing.
this is something that happens personally too, that the personal apocalypse, one's own death, one's own mortality, one can live life in fear or one can live life embracing it, desiring it.
And
And that's the whole idea of personal
in the
gnosis.
moment, yes.
Yes, living is truly living, and truly living because the spirit will live on after death, that everything in your world lives on after this moment of death or this moment of the
Right.
physical. You understand there's multiple worlds, multiple dimensional higher elevations and ascension points. And even on this physical world, once you start realizing reincarnation and karma, and like right, even someone who hasn't achieved nirvana, who is still achieving mukti, this intellectual ability to achieve enlightenment, like you have to really start getting your mind prepped with terminology and definitions and history. One
Right.
already is that state of fear. By that time, one's already unafraid. I believe that this is the true test. It doesn't matter if you're a master of it, but if you are in the right direction, if you're moving the right
Hmm.
path, you are not afraid.
Exactly.
This is what,
Exactly.
yeah, like
It's
this is
so
what they
healing
said. It's
too.
welcome to everyone on any level, from any station, can start working on themselves, can take this journey, can start gaining the courage and the confidence to face down the world and to actually meet their maker, to meet this judgment.
And it's so
Because
easy that a child can do it. That's what's so beautiful about it. We can work with our children on it.
the child's way, exactly, the child, I think children instinctively understand and are connected with the universe and the world,
They
and
really are so psychic.
yep, they absolutely are, and that they don't, it's difficult to say they lose it, but society really enforces it out of them.
Yeah, they do.
Like
Well, and even watching my own kids as I've been waking up and doing the inner work, it's like I've become a different person. And so they're reflecting that. And even their abilities to be more empathic and loving, and they're respect and honor has just raised up, just because, I mean, I expect them to anyway, but it's just like they know and they're embracing that naturally as those crystal children do.
Absolutely. But I also feel like sometimes when you see children, and I've had some experience watching children who I believe to be early abductees, early experiences of my labs, just like myself, and I was. Um, I believe that there is such thing that people think is childhood, and that there is, I think, a lot of interference with it. And I think it's really frightening to see children speak about abduction, like draw grays, in their
Yeah.
sketchbook, or like really speak about hearing ghosts or seeing ghosts, like seeing shadow men, seeing shadow people and stuff. Childhood, I
Hmm.
think, is very, this is the real world. And as great as children really are, I think that they're targeted. I think this is a
They
big
really are.
they need to realize they need to be protected, and they need to be
Right.
really like I said, like educated on these things a lot more than people. Like, I know that they're like, basically leave them alone. They're perfect the way they are, and that they will grow up to be perfect. The less you interfere with them, the less you
Exactly.
teach them.
Just
um
teach them values, honor, respect, and love. They're going to do the rest
well, I was gonna
naturally.
say, it's never too young to learn chakra work. It's never too young to learn yoga. It's never
Exactly.
too
They do
young
it
to learn.
automatic and love it.
Exactly. To learn mythology or legends. I think I've seen
Mhm.
that more than not, is people think, well, they're too young for this information. They're too young to learn about UFOs. They're too young
God,
to
they
learn
can teach us.
exactly. And like, no, exactly. Like, let that kid at those books, and you'll be surprised. Like, they'll be reading when you think they're asleep. Like, they'll be sneaking out to read. Like, like, really show them information that's real and applicable to their, like, they'll tell you what's real to them. They'll show you what they know is real. And it's like the reincarnation, past lives. I'm really a strong believer in that. And if you let a kid uh communicate with you, like really let him speak to you, you can see that that child is an older soul, like, who is not
Hmm.
confused or intimidated.
They're
If
so wise.
exactly, that they will communicate with real issues and give like honest and guileless opinions about things like spirituality, things like ethics, things like real things, like real life matters. And I think that excluding from them from such, shielding them from such, and kind of keeping them in this vegetative, low IQ density
That's a
state.
child abuse.
It is. It's kind of weird. It is weird. Like, I've seen a lot of children in my family, like, and other relatives. Uh, they only give their kids like Disney movies, or they only give their kids like appropriated Dr. Seuss books and stuff. Exactly, like appropriated literature that's like very safe. And they call themselves Christians, and I'm like, you're feeding them very like garbled occult, like MK Ultra type programming,
Hmm.
and you're not allowing them to expose themselves to real serious stuff. Like, what would be wrong in teaching a kid like the Bible at a young,
Qigong,
yeah, what would be wrong with teaching them Reiki or something, like real, like
right?
substantive, like,
Crystals, herbs, plants, just moving your chi.
exactly. It's just strange to me, because I'm like, I know you want to keep a child like you think a child should be, like obsessed with Pokemon, or like really into
Yep.
trivial things and kind of spastically, frantically wasting their energy and time. But I think just allowing a child to like know serious things, like what we would consider like new age adult things, that's
Mhm.
absolutely fine. That's absolutely healthy. And in fact, you'd be very surprised by how mature and educated that they would be, like,
Oh
when
yeah,
approaching such material. I
they
think
eat
it's
it
a,
up.
yep.
They want to
Show
be
them
equals.
how
They
to be.
just want to know that they're good enough and that you love them. And kids want
Yeah.
to be embraced and accepted.
Well, I mean,
What
like,
better
show
way to
them
do it?
like real like documentaries about stuff. Show them a real like documentary about Buddhism or something. You'd be surprised. They'd get.
Oh, they
I
love it.
Yeah, like they'd be really into it. Like, I was really into it. Like, I would be
Hmm.
someone who was constantly looking for National Geographic, constantly looking for
Yep.
if for anything that would kind of like show me more of the real world, show me more of like,
I
this
always
is
loved
my
Jacques Cousteau when I was a kid.
yeah, because children, I mean, they're like it's like Alan Watts said, they're we're all older astral starseed souls that are taking this journey voluntarily. So don't talk down to them. This is someone
Right.
who could be like very much like older than you are, celestially, like older, like an older
Mhm.
consciousness. And it's just like one of those weird things where like you're taking turns being each other's parents and like leapfrogging generation to generation. That's absolutely the case in some
There's a lot of families like that that are talking about
exactly.
that. The kids are their memories are phenomenal. It's so fascinating.
That's what I'm saying. They'll remember houses. They'll remember lifetimes. They'll
Right.
remember certain details that would just blow your mind.
Well, and look at
Um,
like Tony Rodriguez with his experience. It just shows that even though it happened all in this lifetime, those timelines can bleed through just like lifetimes do. And
yes,
remembering those things he has, it's just like, what? That's so cool. Gives
yes.
me a lot of hope for all of us and just really being able to sort out what the crap went on with us and what was taken. But even more importantly, how can we take those gifts that really were extracted as weapons and take those and reverse it back as blessings to our planet and humanity?
A lot of it was like a lot of people say like it's so complex trying to unweave all the life experiences, all the memories to try to physically write it down, map it out. And when you really think about it, movies like Inception, movies things like Quantum Leap, these are
Oh yeah.
primers or material like Stargate. You should watch these things because they'll teach you about alternative
I always
timelines.
loved those TV shows growing up.
Exactly. Those are shows that root someone, that can make someone feel like they're not alone, that they're not crazy, because these are issues like these hard sci-fi issues are exactly what we're talking about. Like the ability to understand multiple universes or multiple timelines or multiple versions of yourself. That is very, very trippy. You know what I'm saying? That is one
Right.
of those
Well, quantum
trippiest.
physics and quantum mechanics is, it seems at first, but the more we balance and wake up, it's like we're remembering, like, oh yeah, that's why.
Mhm.
I like that's how I feel so much. Like a lot of times talking with you or other people that I've talked to, I'm like, oh, dude, that it makes so much sense that it's
You
at
know
that
what's
core level. There's no doubt, and you're like, whoa.
You know what's crazy about all this is that I had the luck of reading a lot of old golden era sci-fi back when I was younger, because I was a voracious reader and I really loved these hard sci-fi like Heinlein, and I think it was Stranger in a Strange Land, um, is all about the secret space program, breakaway society, quantum timeline alteration. Like he has one character that is his own father, and he's like a trans man, trans woman type thing. So it's like this very like not only dealing with gender alternatives, like male persona, female persona at the same time, but also producing your own soul and living in a time loop where you're the constant receiver of your own conception. And
Wow.
like, and this was written in like the 50s, this is not something like exactly. This is something that's like this should be more well known. This should be more mainstream. This should be like Philip K. Dick when he was writing about his alternate visions of the future and of the reality. He was channeling that information, he said, from a satellite that was orbiting Earth and the dark side of the moon, beaming him information of alternate realities, alternate timelines.
That's
That's what
really
I'm saying.
cool.
This is
It's
not
so trippy.
the first. This is not our first rodeo. This is an inherited uh, precedent when it comes to our culture and when it comes to the information that's present. Definitely, like we were talking about information to children. Read Philip K. Dick with your kids. Read Heinlein with your kids. Starship Troopers. Read the book with your kids to teach them about this breakaway civilization and how it is fascist, but it's like a noble uh, fascism that like where your citizenry and worth is proved by your loyalty and your sacrifice like, and that you're fighting aliens because the government just needs to run on war for no reason. So you fought an enemy that can never truly be defeated because this is exactly what they wanted, is this perpetual, exactly like the perpetual. That's what I'm saying. Like, read these higher level, read Ringworld, read The Foundation or Dune. You know, like these books
Yeah, Dune's
are
a big
all
one.
about these concepts. These books are just alternative, interpretations of what's really going on in the world. What the secret space program is really all about. With this broken breakaway, and people like that knew Isaac Asimov was an insider. Uh, um, Arthur C. Clarke was an insider. Michael Crichton was an insider. These people are higher level secret society members that have access to this information, and their way of disclosing this way of getting it off their conscience, or maybe even their purposeful assignment, was to filter it into our world, filter it into our communities, and the versions of media, like you know I'm pretty sure James Cameron knows about the breakaway civilization. I'm entirely certain he does. Because his movies and his work, such as in the Terminator franchise and Avatar and uh,
Yeah,
Aliens, are not only highly accurate, but they're entirely, they're too well done for someone on the outside
yeah,
looking in. It's
yeah,
definitely an insider looking out and saying, like,
right.
don't you get that we're doing this? Like, don't you see this is our daily, like, this is what's going on when you're at work, when you're
Yeah.
going to your 9 to 5, when you're driving in your commute and getting stuck in traffic. This is what's really going on in the world.
It'll be
You know,
nice when all the haze is lifted that's we've had and be able to just finally be in that Star Trek era, as a lot of people like to say. And it's coming. It's coming. I can feel it. I mean, just look at the energies are going on positively. A lot of people want to focus on the negative, but I mean, I'm so excited for where we are, where we're headed. I mean, we've already won the war. We're just living out the karma.
what I fear and what I feel is a big hurdle, and I kind of want to close up on this, is in Revelations. I think that was rewritten. I think that's been edited by the powers that be, because I think they want the world to kind of pick up like raise arms and fight the coming of Jesus Christ. They want him to fight
Yeah.
this this second coming of Christ, because they want to treat it like it's inevitable, like it's a prophecy. But really, I hope that our spiritual awakening, our great awakening, is so complete by then that the world's billions of people are able just to simply say no and welcome, our space brothers, our starseed brothers, these other species, the veterans of Solar Warden, and we're not going to have a huge planet-ending civil war over the matter. We're just going to act like reasonable adults and logically choose the greater of two options, the greater of two goods, and not resort to the lesser of two evils. Like, I want us to finally be able to, as a species, to reach enlightenment and to kind of step into utopia and not
Yeah.
into apocalypse. Like, I think that out of everything I love and want to keep and preserve of the spiritual text, I believe Revelations might be the most erroneous in thinking that these things, um, that of saying such a absolute bleak and tragic portrayal of the human species. I think that's very cynical. I know that it's there as a wake up call, but I think that we can choose a more optimistic timeline. We can choose a better
Yeah.
outcome. Wait, and we don't have to suffer the full wrath of God and have our race extincted. I think we could basically choose the water over wine in the situation, and really embrace our spiritual Lord, our spiritual Savior, and we don't all have to perish. Those that, even like, we're not going to perish, but we don't all have to perish. Everyone can be
Right.
saved. Everyone can be redeemed. Everyone can achieve the salvation. That's, I think, the big point, is we don't have to say this is the time to destroy our enemies. This is the time to take out our anger and our evil. Like, I believe this is the time to show mercy. This is the time to,
Yeah.
start over, to clean the slate. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, we don't have to have a Armageddon where all the souls battle it out to see who's right.
Right.
I think we can just logically understand who's right when the second coming occurs, and there won't be a need for bloodshed, brother against brother, family against family. I think it will be a time to really put aside all those differences and just, join again, like be born again. Really, like, it'll be a spiritual rebirth, and we can finally start over without all this
Yes.
historical baggage. Like, exactly, it'll be a,
Yeah.
it'll be a reverse. And Luciferians and Satanists refer to it as year zero, where that will be the beginning of their reign. But absolutely believe that concept is appropriate when viewing the the resurrection of Christ, the second coming of Christ, and that it will be year zero. All the old grudges, all the old news will be put to bed. That book will be absolutely closed. It'll be closed, and no more delving into the past, no more bringing it up. It'll be absolutely, um, you know, just it'll be forgotten. Everything that we think we know will be forgotten, and we'll embrace this new world. We'll embrace the new way of doing things. We won't even be considered, you know, Homo sapien. We'll have to rewrite every single understanding of the world. We'll just be who we are. We'll be spiritual beings. We won't be able to be classified anymore. We'll be exactly, one with God as it's intended, enlightened, ascended, you know, walking close and achieving nirvana and achieving this while we live in our lifetimes. Like, I think that the phrase
Exciting
millions
time.
now, I think the phrase millions now will never die. I think that's entirely accurate. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's entirely accurate. Millions now, millions living now will never die. They'll never know, because they are the select. This is that forthcoming. This is that relevant and that proximate of an event. Like, it will happen within this century and definitely within our lifetimes.
Some exciting things coming for us. I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
I know lots of people have been talking. For those from C4OC Radio Network and Revelation 2 Radio Network listeners that have questions, I'm going to have our contact information below. You could always talk with Denny Ray or Cap Stevo. Thanks so much, guys, for listening. Thanks for the discussion tonight. It's been really awesome. I always enjoy our discussions, Michael, and you have great wisdom. It's fun. It's interesting things to learn. And we will see everybody again on Heart Mind Expressions.
Thank you. Shalom.
Shalom.